The miracle of Dunkirk. Picture this May 1940. Over 400,000 Allied soldiers trapped on a beach with their backs to the sea. The most powerful military machine the world had ever seen closing in for the kill. Hitler's forces just miles away, ready to deliver the crushing blow that would end the war before it truly began. Churchill himself predicted only 30,000 men might escape. The rest? Capture or death. But then, something extraordinary happened. Something that would change the course of World War II, and perhaps the fate of the entire world. This is the story of Dunkirk, the greatest military evacuation in history, and the story of how defeat was transformed into a miracle. The trap closes on May 10, 1940. Nazi Germany launched a lightning invasion of France and the Low Countries. This was Blitzkrieg, lightning war. The world had never seen anything like it. German panzer divisions smashed through the Ardennes forest, terrain the French had deemed impassable for tanks. They were catastrophically wrong. Within 10 days, German armored columns reached the English Channel, cutting off hundreds of thousands of British, French, and Belgian troops. The British Expeditionary Force found themselves surrounded at the small French port town of Dunkirk. Lord Gort, the British commander, made a fateful decision. Against orders, he recognized the truth. The battle for France was lost. The only hope was evacuation. But evacuating hundreds of thousands of men across the English Channel while under constant attack, military experts considered it impossible. Operation Dynamo. On May 26, 1940, the British Admiralty launched Operation Dynamo, the emergency evacuation from Dunkirk. Vice Admiral Bertram Ramsay assembled everything that could float: destroyers, minesweepers, passenger ferries, cargo ships. But there was a critical problem. Dunkirk's harbor had been heavily damaged by German bombing. Large ships struggled to approach the beaches. Meanwhile, on those beaches, chaos reigned. Soldiers formed long queues stretching into the surf, waiting hours for rescue under relentless attack from the Luftwaffe. German Stuka dive bombers screamed down from the sky. Artillery fire thundered closer each hour. Hermann Goering had promised Hitler that his air force alone would destroy the trapped armies. At the current rate of evacuation, Churchill's grim prediction seemed accurate. But then, the miracle began to unfold. Not from military genius, but from ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The little ships. The Ministry of Shipping requisitioned every available boat on the southeast coast of England. Private yachts, fishing boats, pleasure craft, lifeboats. Anything that could cross the channel. What happened next became legend. Hundreds of civilian boats set sail for Dunkirk. Many were piloted by their owners. Fishermen, weekend sailors, yacht club members. They sailed into a war zone, through mined waters, under air attack, to rescue soldiers they'd never met. These became known as the Little Ships of Dunkirk. Their shallow drafts allowed them to approach beaches where larger vessels couldn't. They would load soldiers, sometimes dangerously overloaded, then ferry them to larger ships waiting offshore. Trip after trip. The Medway Queen made 7 trips to Dunkirk, rescuing 7,000 men and shooting down 3 German aircraft. The yacht Sundowner, just 58 feet long, saved 130 men across multiple crossings. But the evacuation still faced immense obstacles. German forces were closing in. The Luftwaffe continued its assault. And then, something unexpected happened that would prove crucial. The final days. On May 24th, Hitler issued the controversial Halt Order. For 3 crucial days, German tanks stopped their advance. Historians still debate why. Whether to preserve armor, trust in Goering's Luftwaffe, or offer Britain a way out. Whatever the reason, those 3 days proved decisive. They allowed Allied forces to establish a defensive perimeter. French forces fought with desperate courage, holding positions to buy time for the evacuation. They sacrificed themselves so others could escape. Meanwhile, the RAF fought a hidden battle most soldiers never saw. British fighters engaged the Luftwaffe over the Channel, preventing the total air superiority Goering had promised. The RAF lost 145 aircraft during the evacuation. Their sacrifice kept the Luftwaffe from destroying the evacuation fleet. As May turned to June, The evacuation entered its final, most desperate phase. German forces reached Dunkirk's outskirts. Artillery shells rained down constantly. The perimeter was collapsing. But still, the evacuation continued. Royal Navy destroyers made repeated runs under fire. 6 destroyers were sunk, 19 damaged, but they kept coming. The soldiers showed remarkable discipline. Despite the terror, they maintained order. Lines of men waded chest-deep into the water, waiting their turn. On the night of June 3rd, the final evacuations took place. French rearguard forces fought to the last moment, allowing the final ships to escape. As dawn broke on June 4th, German forces entered Dunkirk to find it empty. The evacuation was over. But what had been accomplished? Churchill had hoped for 30,000 men. Over 9 days, Operation Dynamo evacuated 338,226 soldiers from Dunkirk. The cost was heavy. Over 90,000 Allied soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. Numerous ships and aircraft were lost. All of France's heavy equipment had to be abandoned. By any military measure, Dunkirk was a defeat, but it was a defeat that felt like deliverance. Churchill, addressing Parliament on June 4th, was clear-eyed. "We must be very careful not to assign to this deliverance the attributes of a victory. Wars are not won by evacuations." But then he added words that would define British resistance. "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." Those words were only possible because of Dunkirk. Without that army, Britain would have had nothing to fight with. The 338,000 men saved would defend Britain during the Battle of Britain, fight in North Africa and Italy, and eventually return to France on D-Day. The little ships became a symbol of British resilience. The Dunkirk spirit, pulling together against overwhelming odds, entered national consciousness. Today, some of the little ships still float. Each year, they make the crossing to Dunkirk, commemorating that week in May 1940 when ordinary people sailed into hell to bring soldiers home. The beaches are quiet now, peaceful, hard to imagine as they were, crowded with desperate men, wreathed in smoke, shaking with explosions. But Dunkirk reminds us that defeat can be faced with dignity, that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary courage, and that sometimes the miracle isn't avoiding disaster, it's refusing to surrender to it. The evacuation of Dunkirk didn't win the war, but it kept Britain in the war, and that made all the difference.